Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, March 8, 2014, 12:25 a.m. Malaysia Airlines flight MH370 prepares to depart from Kuala Lumpur International Airport en route to Beijing.
Now, today marks the 10th anniversary of the disappearance of Malaysia Airlines flight MH370, one of the greatest aviation mysteries.
Has the dark mystery of Malaysian Airlines flight MH370 finally been unveiled? For nearly a decade, the strange disappearance of this airliner in 2014 has captivated global attention, leaving a trail of questions and theories in its wake. What chilling revelations are buried in the silent depths below? What explosive secrets could the ocean's depths be shielding about MH370? The answer might shock you. MH370's latest clues uncovered. Captain Zahari Ahmad Shah, the pilot of Malaysia Airlines flight MH370, was an experienced and passionate aviator. At 53 years old, he had spent over 18,000 hours in the air and was deeply invested in aviation, even outside of work. His dedication was evident in the flight simulator he built at home and the frequent posts on social media showcasing his love for flying remote-controlled planes. You won't believe the bizarre details we'll uncover as we dig into this investigation, exposing possibly groundbreaking facts about what truly happened to MH370. His co-pilot, First Officer Farik Abdul Hamid, was much younger, just 27 years old. Farik was relatively new to flying the Boeing 777, having recently qualified to operate this type of aircraft. Despite having fewer flight hours, around 2,763, he was seen as a capable and promising pilot. At the time, Farik was also preparing for significant personal changes as he was engaged and planning his upcoming wedding. Both men were well respected in their communities. Farik, in particular, was known for being humble and respectful, traits that matched his close family ties. There was nothing unusual about the fact that these two pilots were flying together on MH370. It appeared to be a routine pairing with no special arrangements made beforehand. When flight MH370 vanished, it triggered a massive search effort involving multiple countries and advanced technology. The scale and urgency of the search underscored the gravity of this mysterious disappearance. As the plane took off from runway 32R, it climbed into the night sky, heading northeast over the South China Sea. After reaching a cruising altitude of 35,000 feet, the crew checked in with Kuala Lumpur Air Traffic Control to confirm their altitude. As they approached Vietnamese airspace, Malaysian air traffic controllers handed over control to Ho Chi Minh air traffic authorities with a routine nighttime farewell. Captain Zahari's last known words were simply, "Good night." But this was far from the end. As the flight continued, something unexpected happened that threw the world into a frantic search for answers. The plane reappeared on radar but had changed course. It turned back, heading southwest across the Malay Peninsula, then changed direction again, flying northwest over the Strait of Malacca. What caused these sudden changes? Was it a mechanical problem, deliberate action, or something else entirely? The questions lingered without clear answers. During this tense period, another pilot tried to reach Flight 370 using an international emergency frequency to pass on a message from Vietnamese air traffic control. Although a connection was made, all that could be heard were faint, unclear noises and static, which only deepened the worry and confusion. As the situation became more serious, the Malaysian military lost track of the plane over the Andaman Sea, indicating that something had gone very wrong. Soon after, all contact with the plane was lost, leaving behind a trail of questions and a desperate need for answers. Air traffic controllers brought alarming news to Malaysia Airlines. Flight 370 had disappeared from their radar. This shocking revelation triggered an urgent search. The airline immediately reached out to other air traffic centers and nearby planes, trying to gather any information about the missing flight. A fisherman near Kota Bharu saw a plane flying very low, which was weird and troubling. Also, an oil rig worker about 1,860 miles southeast of Wong saw something on fire in the sky that same morning. This disturbing sight prompted Vietnamese authorities to launch a search and rescue mission. The eyewitness accounts only added to the confusion, leaving everyone more puzzled as they tried to understand what had happened. Adding to the mystery, Indonesian fishermen claimed they saw a plane crash near the Malacca Straits. These reports only deepened the uncertainty surrounding the plane's fate. 3 months later, a British woman sailing in the Indian Ocean said she witnessed a plane on fire, further complicating the situation and adding to the fear. These varied accounts made the disappearance of Flight 370 even more mysterious. suggesting that something unusual and tragic had occurred. While the details from different witnesses varied, they all pointed to something extraordinary. This only led to more questions than answers about what had happened to the plane and its passengers. The search continued, fueled by hope and a strong desire to uncover the truth in this tragic chapter of aviation history. However, the situation grew even more complex on March 15th, when a company called Inmarsat released important but unclear data. While it didn't pinpoint the plane's exact location, Inmarsat's information suggested two possible paths, one leading south toward the Indian Ocean southwest of Australia, and the other heading north from Vietnam toward Turkmenistan. With the plane still missing, the search shifted focus. Teams redirected their efforts from the South China Sea, the Gulf of Thailand, and the Malacca Strait to these new potential routes. The quest for answers continued, but each new clue seemed to bring more questions than solutions. As we delve deeper into the complex web of this investigation, join us in the next chapter where we explore the intriguing theories surrounding MH370's unexpected detour. Tracing the path of Flight 370, as they considered where the plane might have gone, one theory suggested it could have flown north over countries like Thailand and Kazakhstan, but this idea was quickly ruled out. Since military radars were actively watching the skies, the countries in that area were confident that their systems would have noticed any unidentified aircraft entering their airspace. Because of this, they quickly ruled out the possibility that the aircraft took a northern route. With that option dismissed, the search area for the missing plane expanded greatly, making the search much harder. The search was then divided into two main areas. The first, known as the Southern Arc, stretched deep into the Indian Ocean, southwest of Australia. The second area covered a vast region that included parts of Southeast Asia, Western China, and the Indian subcontinent. This made the search extremely difficult and filled with uncertainty. On March 24, 2014, Malaysia's Prime Minister Najib Razak gave a very serious announcement. He said that after closely examining the final signals from the missing plane, experts concluded it had ended up in the southern Indian Ocean, a place with no safe landing spots. This conclusion suggested that the plane, along with all its passengers, likely crashed into the ocean. This event became a sad moment in aviation history, deeply affecting everyone connected to Flight 370, which carried 239 people. There was little hope of any survivors, but this wasn't the worst part. At the time, it was the deadliest incident involving a Boeing 777, holding this tragic record for 131 days until another disaster happened. Another Malaysia Airlines Boeing 777-200ER Flight 17 was shot down on July 17, 2014, eliminating 298 people and surpassing the previous incident's death toll. These events led to new clues that only made the mystery more confusing, raising even more questions. The search then centered on a suspected crash site in a very remote part of the ocean. But on April 6, 2014, a glimmer of hope appeared when an Australian ship detected possible signals from the plane's black box, far from Perth in Western Australia. This discovery seemed promising because the locations of these signals matched with satellite data. However, there were still doubts about whether these signals were actually from Flight 370. An underwater robot was sent to explore the area, but it faced challenges due to possibly low battery levels and the vast size of the search area. Even after a thorough search, no parts of the plane were found. Later, it was suggested that these signals might have been false, possibly caused by issues with the sonar equipment. The search efforts continued until June 2015, but sadly, they didn't find any parts or debris from the plane. This piece, known as a flaperon and measuring about 6 feet long, was confirmed to be from the Boeing 777 that disappeared. It was the first real evidence suggesting the plane ended up in the Indian Ocean. The flaperon, covered in barnacles, showed it had been in the water for a long time. After this discovery, experts, including those from the UK Hydrographic Office, began studying ocean currents and the sea floor to try to find where the plane might have crashed. But with the vastness of the ocean and the time that had passed, it was a tough job, full of uncertainties. The flaperon's large surface area, which winds could easily move, made it even harder to predict where it came from, making any guesses about the crash site uncertain at best. In the following months, more debris was found along the coasts of Tanzania, Mozambique, South Africa, Madagascar, and Mauritius. A total of 26 pieces were discovered, with 3 definitely identified as parts of MH370 and 17 others likely from the plane. These findings hinted that the plane might have broken apart, but it's still unclear whether this happened in the air or when it hit the ocean. The scattered debris across various coastlines matched predictions of how ocean currents could spread the wreckage. Researchers looking at the wing fragments found on Reunion Island and in Tanzania discovered new clues about the plane's last moments. It seemed that the plane hadn't been carefully guided into the water as some had thought. Instead, some experts believed it might have plunged into the ocean at a steep angle. By January 2017, the search efforts by Malaysia, Australia, and China were officially ended. However, an American company called Ocean Infinity was allowed by Malaysia to keep searching until May 2017. Despite all the efforts, no solid evidence was found, and in 2018 the Malaysian Transport Ministry officially ended the search. But the story took an unexpected twist later that year when a Malaysian report suggested that the plane's change of course might have been on purpose rather than due to mechanical problems. This raised the possibility that someone might have intentionally taken control of the aircraft. Even with these strong hints, the reason behind the plane's disappearance remained a mystery. After the plane vanished, people began considering unsettling scenarios, including the possibility that it was hijacked. Another shocking detail came to light. 2 passengers had boarded the plane using passports that had been stolen, one Austrian and one Italian, both reported missing in Thailand. Interpol had these passports in their database of lost and stolen documents. Malaysia's Internal Security Minister, Ahmad Zahid Hamidi, criticized immigration officials for letting these passengers, who had bought one-way tickets through China Southern Airlines, get on the plane. It was later found out that these 2 were young Iranian men likely looking for asylum, which lowered suspicions of terrorism. With each clue surfaced, the plot thickened, paving the way for more unanswered questions in the ongoing saga of Flight 370. A story of mystery and speculation. As more theories emerged, US and Malaysian authorities conducted thorough background checks on all passengers while China looked into its citizens on board. These investigations didn't find any links to violent or terrorist activities. However, attention briefly focused on a flight engineer with deep aviation knowledge, sparking many speculative theories, including a sensational idea involving Russian agents possibly taking control of the plane. The crash in Kazakhstan was suggested as a distraction from the political tensions in Crimea. While it made for an intriguing story, this idea was never confirmed. The mystery of Flight 370 deepened when reports came out that passengers' cell phones were still ringing. This raised hopes that maybe the plane hadn't crashed into the ocean as many feared. However, experts in telecommunications quickly explained that a ringing phone doesn't mean it's connected. Most likely it was just the network trying and failing to find the phone. Even though this cleared up some confusion, it didn't ease the pain or uncertainty about what really happened to the plane and its passengers. Things got more complicated when it was discovered that the plane had suddenly changed its course before going silent. Was it hijacked? Did something else happen? In the documentary, The Vanishing of Flight 370, Captain Zahari and the plane full of passengers are described as simply disappearing into the night. There were many theories, including hijacking, but no one could agree on what happened. The plane was originally flying over the Gulf of Thailand when it suddenly turned back, flying over Malaysia without any word from those on board. In a time when everyone is always connected, this complete silence was alarming. No one sent a text, made a call, or posted online after the plane changed its path. Most of the passengers were from Malaysia and China, where mobile phone use is very common, especially among travelers, so why didn't anyone try to reach out? Were they unable to, or was something stopping them? Maybe the plane was flying too high for phones to work, or perhaps the attempts just failed. Each new theory made the mystery of Flight 370 even more complex, keeping people around the world on edge, waiting for a clue that might finally solve the case. Military radar data made things even murkier, showing the plane at strange altitudes, first soaring up to 45,000 feet, then dropping to 23,000 feet before climbing again. This unusual flight pattern only raised more questions about what really happened. The more information that came out, the more puzzling the story became. What could explain such strange behavior? Was it all part of a plan, or was something seriously wrong? This ongoing mystery continues to capture the world's attention, leaving people hopeful that one day the truth will finally come to light. At 29,500 feet, the plane held its height, only making slight changes now and then. These shifts probably made it hard for passengers to get a signal on their phones. Being so high up, far from any cell towers, meant their efforts to connect were in vain. About a month after Flight 370 vanished, the story took a dramatic turn. The Malaysian police chief shared that they had interviewed over 170 people, including the crews and pilots' families and colleagues. They focused a lot on Captain Zahari Ahmad Shah. There were growing suspicions that Captain Zahari might have had a personal reason to cause the plane's disappearance. Some rumors even suggested that he might have locked the co-pilot out of the cockpit, turned off the communication systems, and made the cabin unlivable. Looking deeper into Captain Zahari's life, I see that he seems to be a family man living in a nice neighborhood and owning 2 homes. One of those homes had a flight simulator that he used often. When they searched his simulator, they found a flight path very similar to the one Flight 370 took, heading deep into the Southern Ocean and aiming for a remote island. Even though these records had been erased, experts were able to recover them, raising questions about whether this disaster was planned. But this wasn't the worst part. They found signs of trouble as they dug into Zahari's personal life. He was going through a separation from his wife, and just before the flight, a close relative, Anwar Ibrahim, had been jailed. These events could have added a lot of stress. Still, Zahari's wife and friends insisted that he was devoted to his family and job, and they didn't believe he would do something reckless. As the investigation went on, Kuala Lumpur police worked with the FBI to carefully examine Zahari's flight simulator. Their findings didn't support the idea that Zahari hijacked the plane. This shifted the focus to the co-pilot, Farik Abdul Hamid. A surprising discovery was that Farik had tried to make a phone call when the plane was flying low near Malaysia's coast. The call connected for a moment with a tower in Penang State, but then dropped as the plane moved out of range. This raised even more questions about what Farik's role might have been in those crucial moments. At a tense moment, the investigation team and other officials remained silent about the details of a crucial phone call, leading to a storm of rumors and speculation. Some rumors suggested that Farik might have been dealing with personal struggles, which fueled theories that he could have taken control of the plane, turned off its systems, and locked himself in the cockpit. If this was true, it would have been disastrous, leaving the crew and passengers unable to access the cockpit during an emergency. Others thought that heart matters might have driven him to such drastic actions. This view portrayed Farik as someone overwhelmed by his emotions, possibly leading him to a tragic decision. On the other hand, many believed a different story about Farik. They saw his personal life as joyful, not sorrowful. He was deeply in love with Captain Nadira Ramli, another pilot, and their upcoming wedding was a source of great happiness for him, showing him as someone excited about the future. He took great pride in his career as a pilot, which goes against the idea of a man looking for a way out of his problems. Has the mystery of MH370 really been solved? Or are we just scratching the surface of a deeper, darker truth? Share your thoughts below and don't forget to like and subscribe for more.